Great. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. And for our county employees, it is a 3-day weekend. I think, well, for a lot of people, it's a 3-day weekend. So we're very excited about that. Um, my name is Clara, and I'm the Independent Living Program Supervisor for DFCS. And today on this webinar, we have a mix of folks. We have our VITA volunteers. We have social workers, other community support people. So we have just a very vast group of people today, all to learn about the Santa Clara County CalEITC pilot and training. So we're really excited again to have folks here today. I would like to share sort of how we got here. Last year at the Hub, we were a VITA free tax service subsite, and then shelter in place happened. And we were able to have one event and we served 23 youth. The rest of the youth we had to send out to the other VITA sites across the county. Then late last year, John Burton Advocates for Youth, JBAY as we call them, a big advocate for TAY across California, came to us and asked us to partner in a pilot to support foster youth with filing their taxes. As I mentioned before, we're excited about this pilot, especially since tax filing has been a consistent service request from social workers and community partners asking, how is Santa Clara County going to support foster youth in filing their taxes? So this was a great ask of us to participate. This year, we are doing things a little differently. The Hub is going to become an official VITA site. And so this is taking a lot more work to get us to become up and running as an official VITA site, but we're really excited about this. And again, we're working closely with JBAY, the United Way, and the Internal Revenue Service to make this happen. Next slide. So here's the information to participate for our Zoom meeting today. If people are having issues with the volume, we have the meeting ID and phone number. So if you guys need to connect via your phone, just please during this presentation, keep yourself on mute, and we will be providing some time for question and answers later in the webinar. Next slide. So some of our goals for this pilot, we want to disseminate outreach and educational information materials to our foster and homeless youth, provide them with the support to file their taxes by providing access to the free tax service. Make sure our youth file their taxes and receive their cashback refund. Improve VITA tax service volunteer relationships with TAY providers and youth centers and our hub. Next slide. All right. Train staff and volunteers. In this year in Santa Clara County, we did a targeted recruitment to our partners to become VITA volunteers to support TAY with tax filing. We wanted to ensure the volunteers understand the population and can assist in a trauma-informed manner. Promote future county policy for foster youth tax filing. Document efforts and outcomes in hopes to make policy recommendations that will support TAY statewide. As a VITA site, the IRS will be able to provide us with data such as the number of state and federal returns, the number of returns with child and education credits, the amounts of credits, total and average refunds, and so on. Next slide. We hope to support our TAY learn a valuable financial literacy skill and help them to put money in their pockets during this pandemic. We have a list of topics both supporters and TAY will learn in this pilot. CalEITC and other tax credits, filing taxes, and VITA free tax service, documents needed to file, stimulus check, FAFSA applications, and other public benefits, and helpful resources designed for TAY. Below is a link to the JBAY website. They have created youth-friendly materials to educate TAY on the importance of what they need to do to file their taxes. We'll give you a sneak peek of this a little later in this training. Next slide. There are a lot of people who have been working behind the scenes to support this effort in bringing this service to our foster youth. We have Andrew LePage, the California Franchise Tax Board, Anna Johnson from JBAY, myself, Geisha Graves from the United Way, Bay Area, Jessica Nunez, Bill Wilson Center, Josie Martinez, IRS, Sabrina Metier from our CASAs, and other fabulous VITA volunteers. And for those not on our list, our county council has been supporting us, Patricia Martinez, our ILP social service analyst. We've been working with the Bill Wilson Center, their executives, and their tech staff. Next slide. Help us to get money into the pockets of our foster youth. In California, there are 3.8 million TAY. In Santa Clara County, we have 300 plus TAY, ages 18 to 24, who we can support with filing their taxes. We want to reach as many TAY as we can. We need your help to get the word out. Next slide. Here is our agenda for today's webinar. Background on the EITC, TAY-specific situations and scenarios, how to help TAY prepare and file, helpful resources, and at the end, we will have time for question and answers. The two speakers today will be myself and Anna Johnson from JBAY. She's been very instrumental in this pilot, and we are very grateful for her guidance and support. The webinar is scheduled for about 2 hours. We're hoping to finish a little bit early. And now I will turn it over to Anna.
All right, thank you, Carla. So what we're going to do first is just have, we've got a lot of people here today, so it would take kind of a lot of time to go through one-on-one introductions. But what we do want to do is help you all kind of get into the shoes of what our transition age youth might be feeling around tax season and what even we are feeling around tax season. So I'm going to have you all join some breakout rooms. And if you can just share with your partner, we're going to take I have about 10 minutes for this to break off into a couple of rooms where each person can share with each other why you were interested in today's training and what brought you here. Might have been Carla, might have been me, but what else? What was it like when you first filed taxes, and what was the result when you did that? So you got to think back, and for some of us way back, and just tell your breakout group about the different feelings, thoughts, questions, and support that you might have received at that time in your life when you were a young adult, kind of trying this new financial literacy skill out for the first time. So that's really something that we learned last year helping TAY, was just that there was a lot going on. And so I kind of want to get us all in touch with, what brought us here today, what we might be feeling or supporting or providing for other young folks. So let me just, what I'm going to do now is get us into some breakout rooms, but I'm going to stop sharing for a second so that I can do that. And what you'll have to do on your computer is log in, you have to click to join the breakout room once a prompt comes up in a second. So here we go. So thanks for sharing with your group. Hopefully that stirred up some positive conversation and some good ideas about how just being there and supporting young people is going to help them file their taxes with confidence and support and get the most cash back that we can get them during this tough economic year. So, why now? Why are we doing the Santa Clara County pilot right now this year, mid-pandemic, maybe mid-pandemic, we don't know. Why are we doing this now as to before? So let's talk about all of the positive benefits that the California Earned Income Tax Credit can bring to our young people, especially even more so in this year. So the California Earned Income Tax Credit, it used to follow the federal tax rules where you had to be 25 and older to get some money back to you for earning income. It was a work incentive. But beginning in tax year 2018, California and our state extended that threshold to be starting at age 18, meaning our transition age youth could now qualify. There's an exception here. If you were a young parent, there wasn't that age 25 threshold. Basically, if you had a child or dependents, you could qualify for the federal earned income tax credit and the state earned income tax credit. But if you didn't have kids yet, you had to wait till you're 25 to qualify. So this is a new state policy. A new budget was put into this to get money into the pockets of our 18 to 24-year-olds. So this is a new benefit. Beginning in tax year 2019, they added the young child tax credit, which is another $1,000 of a credit to parenting individuals, including our transition age youth who are young parents, as long as their child was under age 6 in that tax year. So most of the young people we're serving in Santa Clara County who are parents, their children are 6 and younger. So most likely, if they're one of our parents, then they will benefit from this tax credit. And Carla's showing her baby Yoda to incentivize this understanding of parenting youth. So beginning in tax year 2020, actually in the most recent state budget, I-10 filers, undocumented people can now qualify for this tax credit. You used to have a social security number. Now you can have a taxpayer identification number and qualify. So for all of these reasons, more and more of our young people have been added a financial benefit that they can get when they file their taxes. So those are some reasons why, and feel free to put any questions in the chat as I'm going through this. So what this means is that this can actually significantly boost the income, the overall total annual income of our transition age youth by quite a bit of money. So from our JBAY kind of data, we know that former foster youth at age 21 are making about $8,000 a year in income, mostly part-time work or W-9 work. And typical working undergraduate students are earning about $14,000 a year. So this is an example of a young parent with a dependent. If they file their taxes, their income actually goes from $8,000 on average to $13,000 or $14,000 to $19,000. So that's a big boost. That's not a little amount of money for our parenting young people who file their taxes. So it's really important that they do this. Now, I'll talk about the tax thresholds here. Someone earning $8,000 a year doesn't have to file their taxes, but should they? I believe yes, because that's another $6,000 about that they'll be getting in their overall income for that year. So it's such a huge benefit. We don't want to pass on that because taxes can be intimidating. There's also other reasons why this year is an important year for this pilot. With COVID-19 pandemic, we know that our transition age youth are experiencing job loss and reduced hours at work. They've had internet and technology access needs and additional expenses from being at home more, all the bills, all the payments. Groceries and protective equipment expenses have increased for people sheltering in place. Their housing needs are arising at different points in the pandemic, when people had roommates leave from their college housing and had to find a new place, or whatever's been happening and going on. There's been a lot of different points in their lives over this past year that have caused these financial needs as well. We have parenting youth having difficulty accessing childcare. That can be a barrier to returning to work, and difficulties accessing public benefits and unemployment and being connected. So we've seen a lot of this, and again, that's why this income can really help our young people now, because they've been cut off from so much of that income they would typically be earning. So with that kind of framing, I now want to talk more about the actual credit that young people could benefit from with the help of getting connected to free tax prep services. So federally, there are a few tax credits. Now, this federal earned income tax credit, again, is only available if you're 25 to 65, unless you have a child. So for our parenting youth here who have a dependent, and that's up through age 17, so any age of a child, they could get the federal earned income tax credit from about 500 some dollars to 6,000, almost $7,000, depending on the number of children they have. So that again is to boost our young families or children out of poverty. That's kind of where that federal policy comes from. The child tax credit is then another $2,000 per child dependent on top of the federal earned income tax credit. There's an adoption tax credit. I put this in here because you might be communicating with people in the foster care system and network who have adopted within this past year, and they can have court costs, attorney fees, and home studies as part of their taxes. I just added that in. Sometimes our older TAY might be adopting or taking independents who are their younger siblings. And so I just thought I'll put this in here in those rare scenarios where that might be the situation. Finally, there's been some federal stimulus checks where, as you all have experienced personally, if the IRS had your tax information and your bank account, it was a lot easier for you to get that than if you didn't. And I'm sure many of you tried to help young people through the non-filer online link to get their stimulus checks. I do believe that with the new federal administration, we may be seeing more stimulus checks down the road. So helping young people file their taxes this year, make sure their information's in there, will help them access the previous, the current, and any future stimulus checks that might be coming around the pandemic. So a lot of our young people miss those because of just the outreach or lack of awareness there and not having previously filed. And I'm not seeing any chats or questions in the chat, so I'm going to move on to the state tax credit. So our state has done some things as well to benefit young people and youth and children and kind of do this kind of lifting out of deep poverty. One of those things that they've done is the California Earned Income Tax Credit. So anyone making $30,000 or less, age 18 and older, can qualify for about $243 in the California Earned Income Tax Credit. And then if they have dependents or children, up to about $3,000. So there's a calculator. It's this link here. If you're working with a youth, or if you want to check for yourself if you qualify, you can put in the different information on this web link and it'll tell you if you qualify for CalEITC. So that's a pretty cool online tool. There's also the Young Child Tax Credit, which is that $1,000 I was talking about if they have a child under age 6. There's a renter's credit. So, if they're in a SILP or anything, paying towards their housing. For kind of a single individual, that can be another $60 in California, or $120 for married or domestic partners. And then there's this new proposal in the governor's budget around the Golden State stimulus. It's basically another $600 stimulus check. It hasn't been completely approved yet, but the legislature and governor are working on this proposal together, and they're looking to pass an early budget probably in February, where it would be $600 per tax return from last year and this year for tax filers who qualify for CalEITC. So what we know is that most of our transition age youth are not earning $30,000 or more yet. Many of them are in jobs, reduced hours, or in school and working. So they're not quite earning a full-time with full benefit salary. Most of them will qualify for CalEITC, and most of them will qualify for this Golden State stimulus check when it's approved. And how they'll be able to access that is by filing a tax return with the state of California. So those are all the things that are coming up. So, they could, for non-parenting youth, you could get, $243 plus the $600 from the Golden State stimulus. That's close to $1,000 when you add in the renter's credit. And if they're in school, there's some student credits. So, and any withholding, that's looking at like $1,000 just for filing your taxes. So this is a really big boost and such an important thing. So I'll go on from there. This information shows you how do you get the CalEITC, 18 or older, under 18 with qualifying children. So if you have minors who have a child, they will qualify as well. Income of at least $1 a social security number, or now for undocumented folks, they can use the taxpayer identification number. You have to have lived in California for half of 2020 to get the CalEITC. Those who might have been placed out of state can still qualify for the federal benefit, but particularly not this one. You have to be half the year. And then that income threshold. This is just a chart. It's in the guide. We'll show you later about how much, up to how much could you earn. But if you kind of look up the up to this much, you can see that it quickly adds up, especially for our young parents. So again, like I mentioned before, not everyone has to file taxes from the 2020 tax year. If you're earning less than $12,400, you don't have to file your taxes, but you will also not receive any of these tax credits without filing. So part of our job is to outreach and to talk about that income that they could be getting back from filing. And that includes the withholdings, anything that was removed from their paycheck that they would get back, the refundable tax credits we just talked about, and those stimulus payments we talked about. So when you're talking with your young folks that you're working with, please encourage them, let them know of these different benefits and how they link to filing their taxes. The other thing that's just important, I know many of you are working with identity theft, tax, or kind of fraud issues with youth in care, are more vulnerable to that experience. And so just a good thing to know is that if they're getting any kind of suspicious information, phone calls, those are scams. The only thing that they're going to get related to taxes is going to be in the mail from the Franchise Tax Board with the logo and the address on it. And it would only be sort of to show, hey, you filed your taxes. We need a little bit more information to just confirm this is correct. That's not going to happen over the phone or email. Those would be phishing scams or phone scams. It'll only happen through this kind of paper documentation. So just so that you're all aware, if you hear anything, let us know and we'll report those things. But it will be on this official letterhead. So any questions before I move on to what we're looking for when filing taxes? There's some specific issues that transition age youth experience. I'm just looking for my chat. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Carla, are you seeing any chat questions? Okay. All right, so I put into the chat the link to this guide. I also sent it via email. So this is updated with the information for the most recent tax year. And we cover in this guide, and we're going to go through it. Carla's going to show you that a little bit later, but I'm going to just specifically walk you through some situations that will come up when helping young people file their taxes. So one specific situation is for our youth who are immigrants, undocumented. What we want to see here is that, for if they're DACA status, they'll have a social security number. If not, they'll need an ITIN, and there's a link for how to get that. And we've got those instructions in the guide, and we have them in the tax prep checklist. So some young people may have never filed before. They were never pre-4 eligible for these credits. And so they may need your assistance getting their individual taxpayer identification number from the IRS. Now, this is totally safe and secure. That number is not shared with any. It's not ever shared with any immigration officials. It's totally secure and safe. So you can reassure your young people that getting this number will not in any way put them at risk. And so that's something that we talk through in the guide. Many of our transition age youth are students, and a common error that can happen when filing taxes is that you can put in the wrong number from your financial aid awards into the tax filing software or system or form. And so what I really want to emphasize here is that there's an equation that you use to put in the correct number. And what you do is you identify that books and supplies and tuition and fees are not taxable. The only thing that's taxable income are the living expenses. And what you do is you kind of ignore this total costs. You look just only at the gift aid that was given. you subtract the tuition and fees and the living expenses to get this number, 10,000. That is what would be put into the tax kind of document. What happens sometimes is that people would put in the 32,000 or the 24 without subtracting the tuition and fees or books and supplies, or they might even put in the 17,000 for living expenses thinking, oh, that's the taxable income. So you actually have to do some, fourth grade math here. I was a teacher. I know this is like the level, but this is what needs to happen. I just want to put that on your radars. It's in our guide. It's in our tax prep checklist as well. Also, if anyone is currently paying student loans, they'll get this 1098-T form. You might need to help them log into their, you might need to encourage them to log into their accounts to get these. Sometimes they're electronically delivered through the system now. Not everything is coming through paper mail, or it might have gone to an old address. So you can encourage young people to do that. They get some of this money, back. And then this is also just if there's certain loans that you're receiving. So this is called the 1098-T. And then if they're paying interest, some of that can be deducted back $2,500. So that's not an insignificant amount of money. And you can get some of that interest back. And that's really important to make sure that they have that 1098-E form. This just sort of shows where that's entered on the actual tax. The other thing that's connected to tax filing is the financial aid application. So when completing the FAFSA form, and I know a lot of you help young people do this as well, it actually can auto-populate a lot of that information into FAFSA and makes that a lot easier. It doesn't impact any of your getting the CalEITC or any of these government payments doesn't actually impact the amount of financial aid you would receive. So it does actually just help out overall with completing that application because it's the same information being requested. So what happens with the FAFSA is if you're a non-filer, if you haven't filed your taxes, it could be a little bit harder to complete your financial aid application because you have to prove that you didn't file your taxes and you have to obtain a non-filing status or a signed statement. And then the IRS has discretion to determine if that was a sufficient statement and that may delay financial aid. So actually just helping any young students make sure they're filing their taxes so that they can get over some of these hurdles with the financial aid application is kind of a win-win. We're also serving young people who are experiencing homelessness or who have moved or recently moved, changed location. They may need to call their old employers, get those W-2s or W-9s to their new address. They might not have a permanent address for a check to be mailed to when they get their tax return. So what we encourage people to do is to use a clinic or shelter and address with the permission of that location, and it can be mailed there on their behalf. Without a bank account, you can bring that tax return check to Walmart or load it onto a prepaid debit card. What we would encourage though is that young people who are experiencing homelessness would be supported with getting a bank account and obviously with support not being homeless, a permanent address, but if there's anyone in the middle of that you're helping, there's other ways to get them this money that and that's in the guide. For our young people in juvenile hall, they do have access to the internet for educational purposes, and tax preparation counts as that. You can have someone bring the tax forms and documents that might have been mailed to their home or address. They could file for extension to complete their taxes by October 15th instead of the April 15th tax deadline. But they can claim CalEITC regardless of past convictions or any involvement. That doesn't impact your eligibility for this financial benefit. And then any wages that are earned while incarcerated or on work release are technically not counted for the EITC, so it would have to be earnings from a different job. But essentially with virtual tax appointments, as long as they have their tax information, they should be able to get an appointment with the HUD and file. So one question we get a lot of is, I'm in SILP, I'm in transitional housing program, I get money for that to pay for some of my bills. Those are not considered earned income, they're not taxable income. So you don't add that to, you know, this threshold of $30,000 in earnings. None of these foster care payments add up to count against me, right? It's just what I earned from a W-2, W-9. It's not any of these payments here. So the SILP, the infant supplement, any gift cards from ILP, these do not count like at that income threshold, and they're not entered into your tax documentation. So if this comes up, you know, it's not taxable income. So there's also joint custody. This is going to be less common with our transition age youth, but definitely will apply to some. But if they have a dependent, like we mentioned, those child tax credits or the earned income tax credit, and it matters how much you get back based on how many kids you have. So with joint custody, actually only one parent can claim the tax benefit for that child. So you don't both get that amount, only one parent. It would be whoever's the custodial parent. And if the parents split the custody, then they use whichever parent has the higher income level to be kind of the threshold judge for how much they would get back. So that's how that's calculated. So for our tax preparers who are working with maybe someone who's married or someone who has joint custody of dependents, you have to make sure that they're both not claiming, because then the tax return could be rejected. And it could be like kind of a ding, and then you have to redo it. So these are questions that are asked in the preparation and interview stage before filing the tax return. So I'm just pointing that out here now. There's also situations where young people could potentially have been claimed as a dependent by adults, either because that's true or because that's not true, it's fraud. So in some cases, transition age youth could be claimed as a dependent if there's someone's, you know, foster child counts, adopted child counts, and they're, you know, maybe a student, or more than half of your financial support is coming from that taxpayer who's claiming them. So if it's not a child but a relative, they have to live with the taxpayer, make less than $4,000, and more than half of that transition age youth financial support has to be from that taxpayer. So that to me is pretty rare for the young people that Santa Clara County is serving, that there is an adult who's taking care of those needs and paying for those needs and everything, right? Especially if they're in a SILP, if they're in a transitional housing, if, you know, they're homeless, no one should be claiming them as a dependent. So if they go to file their taxes and it gets rejected because somebody else claimed them, it could be because somebody else had access to their social security number, put them down, and it's tax fraud. And in that case, you have to call the identity theft number that's listed here and say, and kind of have support in saying, you know, I've been living on my own, I'm going to school on my own, no one's paying for half of my expenses. So that has happened to some of our youth, and that's what this number here is for, and we can support with reporting that. But there may be some young people who are living still with their caregiver, you know, that have continued there, and they're getting that support, and that caregiver may claim them. And so you just want to ask before this young person files and kind of does that, so that they can still file, they can still get their withholding backs from their paycheck, but they're not going to get some of these tax credits and benefits because they were claimed as a dependent. So, oh, go ahead, Carla.
Anna, there's some questions in the chat. So there is one, a youth I'm working with is married and wants to know if they're married, if they should file separately, and what are the pros and cons of both. Then there is one about if youth didn't file in the past, will staff be able to help them with filing back taxes? I know
Okay.
that one's easy, and the answer is yes. So the one about a youth who's married and should they file separately,
Mhm.
what are the pros and cons to
All right.
both?
So let's talk about the youth who is married. We want them to file jointly. If you're married, filing separately, you do not qualify for these tax credits, unfortunately. So we want to encourage them to file jointly, which means you need both people's, you go through that tax prep checklist with both people and have them have an appointment together so that they can have their taxes prepared together and pull down those credits. And why we need both again is because whoever earned a little bit more than the other person, they're going to base the CalEITC or the earned income tax credit off of that, whichever one's a little bit higher, right? And so again, if they want to file separately, obviously they can do that, but they're not going to benefit from these tax credits. So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Please encourage them to file jointly. And then with past year's taxes, in the scheduling link that we're going to share with you, you'll see that there is an option for I'd like to file previous year's returns, and we'll go through that a little bit later. So thank you for those questions. So now I actually have some questions for you all, and you can type your answers into the chat. I know I just dumped a lot of really specific technical information. It's all in the guide, just to reassure you, but I just want to go over some scenarios to kind of get the brain making some linkages here. So let's think about this. We have our student Brenda. She's 23. She earns $4,000 from her part-time job. She receives $12,000 for tuition and $12,000 for living expenses with financial aid and has no children. So the first question, and type in the chat, is she legally required to file state taxes? Good point. So I'm seeing some, put your answers in. I'm seeing some answers here. All right, we're getting the nuance now. Some people said yes, because we want her to file her taxes. And then some people said, no, she doesn't have to, but she can. So that's right. In California and with the IRS, you have, in order to be mandated to file your taxes, you have to be earning $12,400. Her income is lower than that, so she doesn't have to file, but she can and she should, because she'll qualify for some of these tax credits, most likely. So is she eligible for the CalEITC? Yes, people put that in the chat. She is eligible because why? Does anyone know why she's eligible? And you could unmute yourself and share, or you can type it in the chat. But what gives it away that she'll most likely be eligible? First of all, her age, she's 18 or older. Second of all, her income of $4,000 is less than 30,000, that income threshold. So she'll most likely be eligible as long as she's living in state for half the year. And then how much could she get from it? She doesn't have children. So, and she made more than $1. So she doesn't have children, but it's going to be that lower threshold. So I'll show you the answers here. Up to $243 she'll get back. Income is below, and there we have it. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next scenario here. So now we have Joe, who is 19 years old, foster youth, and a part-time student. Joe makes $12,000 from a part-time job, receives $960 monthly from a SILP payment, and has no children. So does Joe need to file taxes? And is he eligible for the CalEITC? Knocked my Lady Liberty over. So I'm looking at the chat here. So what do we think about Joe? All right. All right, so we're not sure. All right, we got an answer from Chris. Good job, Chris. So that's right. So the threshold was 12,400. So Joe is less than that. So does not need to file because this silk payment is not taxable income. So we're not adding that. It's not 12,960 times 12. It's not all that money, but still should, because is he eligible and how much could he get? So again, 12,000 of that taxable income, his income is below 30,000 and could get that $240. So should be encouraged to file for that reason alone. So we'll go on to a final example here, a final scenario with a parenting youth. So we have Charlotte, 24, income is 22,000 per year, has one 3-year-old who lives with her for the entire year. So she is the custodial parent. So is she legally required to file? Is she eligible? And how much could she get from it? And is she eligible for the young child tax credit? So I'll just give a second for people to kind of process and think about that one. It's okay. Required to file. Will she be eligible for the CalEITC and the young child tax credit? What do you think? Yes to all. Yes, yes, 1,000, yes, 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 yes. Okay, great. So let's go through this. Now, one thing that I didn't put in the list that's in the guide actually is the threshold if you're a parent is actually a little bit higher. So I kind of just went to the baseline. But so technically, for if you have a child, you can earn more and not be legally required to file. But is she eligible for CalEITC? Yes, because her income is lower than 30,000. How much could she get from the CalEITC with one dependent over $1,600? How much could she get from the young child tax credit? $1,000. So we're looking at least about $3,000 that's going to be coming back to this parenting youth if they file their taxes. So yes, 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 yes. Very good. So really what this scenario is to kind of show is not that you have to have memorized all of these different thresholds and intricacies, because we put those in the guide, we put them in a table, try to make it easy for you in those resources, but really just to show how important it is that people are encouraged to file even though they don't have to, because it could be hundreds or thousands of dollars that will come back to them for taking that time to do that. So that kind of ends my section, and even a few minutes early. So I know this is very tax detailed, so thanks for hanging in there with me. So Carla, I'm going to hand it back to you to start talking about how we can actually help, how we help with documents, getting them to an appointment, getting this money back to young people.
Great, thank you, Anna. So the next slides, we are going to just demonstrate on some ways to help TAY claim the CalEITC and how to just, yourself get, the information out to the young people. So next slide. So review and circulate all county information notices on the CalEITC. So the last 3 years, California Department of Social Services sends out a all county notice. The purpose of these ACINs, as we call them, are to notify county welfare departments and that the earned income taxed EITC outreach publications are revised for that given tax year. The ACINs also outline potential state and federal tax credit California tax filers may qualify for depending on their income, age, and number of children, if any. They encourage counties to disseminate the outreach publications attached to the ACIN to clients we serve. Next slide. And number 2, review and share JBAY's CalEITC guides with TAY and their circle of supports to inform TAY of what they need to file their taxes and the potential benefits. You can always email the guide, send the link to the JBAY's website. The guide is very informative and covers areas a lot like what Anna shared earlier. You know, 1, do I need to file my taxes? How to prepare to file your taxes? The different special circumstances for immigrants, students, homeless youth, youth in juvenile hall, and transitional housing, filing taxes if you share custody with another person, and if someone is claiming you as a dependent if you're over 18. And then the important piece of information is how to get your return. Next slide. And so this slide is just to really get the word out, you know, along with the JBAY's TAY-friendly materials, the California Franchise Tax Board and CalEITC websites. You know, they have great resources. Follow the Hub's social media sites. We will be posting information, resources, toolkits, and how to schedule a VITA-free tax service appointment at the Hub. So definitely, you know, stay tuned. If you are not on any of our Hub media sites, definitely get connected. You know, again, JBAY's website. So there's a lot of information we'll be sending it out routinely to just keep the momentum going. So then people remember like, hey, let me talk to my youth about this. Let's get them connected. Next slide. Okay, and then JBAY also developed a friendly checklist, and I think shared earlier. You can share with your youth to help them to prepare to file their taxes. There are some highlights I'd like to share. Anna, do you want to switch over to the checklist? Okay, 1 minute. Want to showcase this. Uh-oh. Oh, oh, here we go. Yeah, okay. So just some things with this checklist, like number 1, you know, we want to make sure the youth have their correct ID, driver's license, government ID, passport. They have a permanent address, so then they can get their refund mailed to. Do they have their social security number or individual taxpayer identification number? Do they have a bank account if they want to get their refund quick? Do they have all their W-2s? The checklist also provides information on if they can't contact an employer to obtain their W-2, what they can do. Again, some important forms, you know, that they should make sure that they have. Anna mentioned them earlier, the 1099 interest from their savings, the 1098 to claim tuition and fees, the 1098E for interest paid on student loans. And then as you go further down, the checklist also outlines the California tax credits for our TAY youth. The one important one to highlight is, you know, if you have a child who is under the age of 6 as of December 31st of that tax year, you can qualify for the young child tax credit. That's an additional $1,000 in your refund. So this is very user friendly, you know, very, you know, youth friendly, you know, so definitely get this out, you know, to your young people. We'll share this with you all. I think you might have it already in your email. So definitely, you know, start sharing this with your young people and other TAY supporters. So then we can start getting the information out there. And again, you know, this is on the JBAY's link. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. All right. Okay. So I think we're on slide 46, I think. Yes, okay. So number 6, dedicate time to support TAY in gathering their documents and help them schedule a free tax appointment. So tax season is now until April 15th. Last year, the tax season was extended. As far as we know from our United Way and IRS partners, it is April 15th is still the deadline. So we haven't heard anything else. The hub is, I saw a chat in there. When can we start scheduling appointments for our young people? The hub, we are still finalizing the schedule. We will begin to offer the free tax service in February. So stay tuned to the hub social media accounts, calendar, and all staff and hub distribution emails that will be going out. We're still working on some technical issues in the background, adhering to some of the IRS rules that we have to do. So, we're still working on that, but we will be sending that out hopefully by the end of January for you all. Okay, next slide. Okay, direct TAY to free tax services. If youth are unable to go to the hub, there are other VITA sites throughout the county. You can go to the IRS website and search for the VITA site near you. At the hub, we are planning to offer one-on-one, in-person, drop-off, and virtual tax appointments, all, of course, adhering to the COVID guidelines, which makes it a little trickier this year to do the tax filing prep. The virtual tax appointments will be ideal for the youth who live out of county. So we're excited that we will be able to provide the service to some of our out of county youth. So again, stay tuned. We'll be scheduling them shortly. Next slide. So number 8, this is something that we can do throughout the year to integrate information of CalEITC and the benefits. In CFTs, you can ensure youth have their important documents, California ID, Social Security number, individual tax identification number, prep them through the year. So when tax season comes, they're not at the last minute. I don't have an ID. I don't have the social security number. I don't know they don't memorize it. Help them open up a bank account, so then they can get their tax return quick, so that's something that, you can talk about in a CFT, in the ILP curriculum classes, tie in the importance of filing taxes into financial literacy classes, even, have one ILP curriculum class just on how to do tax prep. What do you need to know? Where you can get information. On the youth TILP, it can be a goal for youth to file their taxes. And again, we have to identify who's going to support that young person, who will help them gather their documents and help them schedule a free tax appointment. And then when you're working one-on-one with your young people, share the JBAY outreach materials, prep them and encourage them to file their taxes. And again, talk about the benefits. Filing taxes is a great life skill. I know when we were in our breakout rooms, just talking about your first time doing it. And, so it's a great skill to have, for our young people going through this process. So, definitely encourage them throughout the year, get them prepared. And the last one, number 9, help them file for the previous years. That was a question. Again, help them pull all their documents early in the presentation, and it's in that checklist. It has the resources of how to get previous, years information. Help them get, whatever documents they may, they need to gather. If they lost anything, again, there's ways they can get the information. We can, support them with 3 years. So, that's another thing that, is encouraging them to, even look at the last few years to file their taxes. And now I will return it back to Anna.
All right, had to unmute myself there. Thank you, Carla, for sharing all of those good ideas. And, I think we might have time to kind of think through what's going to work for you all in this more virtual environment, and supporting and getting these materials out to young people. Would love to hear your ideas about what seems feasible, workable, and the most effective. But we do have our partners at the state who have created some outreach materials that I do want to share with you. So our franchise tax board for California has this website, which I did send in the mail, and all of these links are active in the PowerPoint PDF that we shared with you via email. So you can click on any of these links to be taken to that resource. But we have flyers that obviously could be emailed or posted on social media or printed and put up somewhere if there is any in-person activities. And they are available in different languages. So depending on the language needs of the youth that you have, whichever is their primary language, we can get that information to them in that version, because tax information is already confusing enough. We don't need to add a language barrier on top of that. There's also some posters and trifold brochures. When you click on those links, it'll say, you know, basically that the Franchise Tax Board will mail you copies. So Carla, you might want to see how many people want a copy, and we can order them from Andrew, who is the outreach manager at the Franchise Tax Board. But we could get to Santa Clara County copies of these resources that could be put in some mailing or dropped off at, you know, if anyone is doing one-on-one appointments. I'm not sure with COVID what the reality looks like right now, or sent virtually. So there's some options here, and these are all active links. There's also, what I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to show, is there's this calculator tool where you can see how much you might qualify for. So this is a nice virtual activity to, if someone's like still unsure about filing, you could help them fill this out and see, they could see, be reassured that they qualify, that they will get money back, that it's worth it. So this is that calculator link. There's also, for free tax help for other VITA sites, you know, I think our primary is that we want young people to be directed to the hub and to our volunteers who are familiar with these TAY specific scenarios and their needs, and know that foster care payments aren't taxable income, that know a little bit more about our young people. But if they want to go to something closer to their house, if they're out of county and want to go drop off something, if they're having a hard time virtually uploading documents, you use this VITA locator link, type in the zip code, it shows some options and the hours of operation, and then you can schedule an appointment. Young people will typically need a little bit of encouragement to make that call and get that appointment set and calendared and saved. But here's all the active links to help you do that with them. This is what it looks like a little bit more deeply. You know, it's really simple. 1, 2, 3, find a location. Do you need an interpreter? So if we need it in a different language, that's available. These are all those outreach and education materials. I think these are actually last year's version. There's the new versions that came out this year that you go to this link, this is the current link. And this is what some of the outreach looks like. These on the right side are social media posts that we can kind of just use ourselves. Then there's this wheel right here that's next to those, the second in from the right. When young people file their taxes, they can also see that they might have an income threshold that qualifies for CalWorks or Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition and CalFresh food stamps or Head Start. So there's also these flyers that may help them become linked to other public benefits, which I know you're supporting them with as well. So there's just some interesting resources, and then just like, are you eligible? So there's different flyers that say all these things for us with pretty colors. And then the Franchise Tax Board just asked that I share with you their social media handles. They need everybody's help spreading the word across the state. Last year in the budget, they invested more in the credits, but took away some of the money from the outreach program. So individuals are going to get more money, but it's going to be harder for them to know about it. So we really do need to support any type of promotion of this that we can. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Q&A and kind of stop sharing my screen here so we can have more of a dialogue. But I'm happy to go through any of these resources more in depth, answer any questions. But maybe to kick us off, I would just love to hear from a few of you how you're thinking about using these materials, what might work for you and your young people. Anybody?
Anna, this is John.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So as a volunteer, I'm got some questions, I guess. When you say you're young people, this is my very first meeting. I don't know what you mean when you say you're young people.
Yeah, so John, everyone meet John. Is one of our VITA volunteers who's going to help actually prepare taxes with young people as a hub site volunteer. So myself, Suzel's on, Carla, we're all getting trained. But John, essentially the other folks on this call who work for a social services agency and work directly with current and former foster youth experiencing homelessness, college students who might be former foster youth or probation youth, they're going to help young people get their tax documents ready and schedule an appointment at our VITA site now that's serving them. So once they do that, we'll help them, we'll actually prepare the tax returns and get them their cash back. So it's kind of that handoff between county staff and us as volunteers.
Okay, another quick question. I'm interested in getting a copy of the recording. Do I just tell you and you email it to me? Do I text my email?
I have everybody's email and I'm going to send the recording once it takes a few hours to kind of convert on my laptop, but then I'll send it out as a follow-up with any other materials that anyone asks for here today.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks, John.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Ashley. I think you got muted.
Yeah, hi. So I think the way that my name is Ashley Jamont, just to introduce myself, I'm the Director of Strategic Partnership at Pivotal. The way in which we are going to use this information, we have a kind of curriculum set up for our young people. So we are going to use this information to support them in filing their taxes. And that's part of our financial literacy, kind of what we're saying, workshop for our young people. So it's part of our professional development or our PDWs. So we do have a specific section around financial literacy, and within that section, we have something around supporting our young people with filing taxes. I also signed up to be a VITA volunteer, so hopefully I'll be able to support some young people virtually. I'll either reach out to Anna or Carla to figure out how I can get on the schedule to support our young people. So that's the kind of way that we're thinking about using it in-house and also externally.
Yes. Great. That sounds great, Ashley. And hopefully next week for our VITA volunteers who are on the call, we will internally, we're going to be meeting to sort of like figure out, fine tune the schedule a little bit more. And then after that, then Anna will be sending out a Google Doc with, the different hours, and then we can start plugging people in. And then hopefully we'll get the announcement, out by the end of this month and start sending it through our social media sites. So great. Thanks for Ashley for becoming a volunteer. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a question here. Oh, go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, no, I was just going to say absolutely sounds great. And we also have on our website at Pivotal, we also took the opportunity.
Oh, she froze on us.
To put it up there for any of our other community volunteers, so it's on our website too.
Great, thank you so much.
Awesome. Suzel, I see that you're still on. I was wondering, could you put the VITA volunteer jot form link? Because it looks like at least Stacy, there might be someone who's interested in becoming a tax prep volunteer. So Stacy, I think I have your email, so I could just email you, but Suzel, if you could drop that in for everybody into the chat, or I can pull it up here in just a second, but we can email you the volunteer link. So for volunteers who are doing this, there's a couple of things that we do. We take, it actually intimidated me at first, and I learned it's all open book testing. So I had a minor panic attack, and then I was like, oh no, it's all good. So you take a standards code of ethics test, saying that you're not going to take money or things from other people. You're just going to prepare your taxes for free and not try and personally benefit from it. You take a little test like that. Then you read what it takes to interview someone for an intake form, And then you take a certification training. The trainings are recorded trainings or Saturday trainings. One is tomorrow. There's different times for the trainings. There's some that are during the week and some on the weekends through United Way Bay Area. And there's just like, you can just read yourself the information, but there's a lot of information. And then you take a test to certify and practice this online, it's called TaxSlayer software, where you enter the tax information as a preparer. So there's a few steps to becoming a VITA volunteer. Those steps are kind of outlined from the United Ways Bay Area team. And Suzel just dropped the link in. If you're interested in becoming a VITA volunteer with us, that would be wonderful. We'd love to have you. Like Carla said, there's going to be some hours of operation at the hub to do either in-person drop-off or virtual. Some of our volunteers are from the Bay Area. They're from Oakland. They're not in San Jose, but they're going to do virtual appointments for people. And then we're going to basically have people sign up for a time that they can do throughout the season. We might do some weekend tax events with like mass drop-off and servicing young people where more of us could be there to help out on one day, like a bigger event. But we'll let you know those dates and times and hours. But for volunteers, sign up and we'll communicate with you to sign up for the times that are going to work to help young people.
Anna, how many volunteers do we have at this point?
I think we have around 15.
Okay, 15.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so I'm doing the volunteer training, and yes, like Anna said, it's like, whoa, we got to take some tests. It's like, okay, going back to school. But yeah, it's an interesting process. And so, yeah, so, sounds like we can use some more. So definitely, because we don't know, like I said earlier, we have 300 plus youth here in Santa Clara County that we can serve. We don't really know how many of those that, how many will serve, but we definitely want to get the word out. And as we are a VITA site, an official VITA site, since this is our first year becoming an official VITA site, the minimum is like 50 youth to serve. So that's what, we're targeting 50, but we can definitely, we want to at least, my goal would be like, let's try to get about 100 kids in this year. That would be awesome if we could just reach that goal, but we can definitely serve more.
Great.
Hi, Carla. This is Elena. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Anna, I wanted to thank you very much. My name is Elena Marquez with the Career Development Unit. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was great. And Carla, thank you for spearheading this and getting it together. The Career Development Unit, we've been wanting to be a VITA site for years and years. We work with young people who work, and then they need to file their taxes. So we were constantly sending them to the VITA sites at Center Road. And last year, if I'm not mistaken, Carla, the workshop you were referring to was the one that Veronica hosted, right?
Yes.
So we have an employment counselor who's on leave right now. Through her connection, she was able to bring them to the hub. We had the session, first time ever, and we had the 20-something. It went great. A couple snags on how to claim financial aid, but we thought we'll work it out. Pandemic happened, and here we are. I'm really glad that Carla and the rest of the team picked up on that, and now we'll be a site, and we will definitely have a lot of people coming. We do trainings with our young people, so we will now tell them, guess what, it finally happened. You're going to be able to do it through the hub, virtually, in person, or some type of combination. So we will definitely spread the word with all our youth that are working and need to do taxes.
Yes, great.
Awesome.
And thank you again to all the volunteers. Couldn't do it without you.
Yes. And I want to give a big kudos out to Bill Wilson Center. As we were going through this process, sort of figuring out who is actually going to be to become a VITA site, we looked at like, can the county become a VITA site? And working with county council very closely and having multiple meetings with county council. And it just was a lot easier to have Bill Wilson's name under the VITA site for the hub. So, big kudos Jessica and the Bill Wilson execs that really helped us to make this happen. And we're meeting with their IT people next week. So, it's been a huge collaboration and we're really excited about this. So kudos to the Bill Wilson team as well.
Thank you, Carla. We're so excited for this, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we have Sabrina on from CASA, and Sabrina is one of our volunteers as well, going to be pulling some weekly shifts for us. So for me, you know, what we learned, I know Elena shared and Veronica from the event last year, Patricia's on. We basically learned that, yeah, we tried to help young people, and there's so many questions that come up. So really learning these specific scenarios and helping them get their information together. And that these checklists that were out there weren't really youth friendly. It would just be a checklist that says, get your W-2, get your 1099, get your this, and it was all jargon. So we did make the checklist a lot longer, but it explains everything. And if the answer is yes, you just skip to the next item and you know, oh good, I'm more ready, I can do this. So, you know, one thing I want to do, I know I kind of want to wrap up around 10:30 like Carla said, but if we could take the last 5 minutes, I did email everyone this morning, or just a little bit after 8:30, with some materials and links. And so if you can kind of bookmark those, take a couple minutes to follow the hub on social media and follow JBAY on social media so that we can promote these things. If you're going to promote them and want us to follow you, can you drop your information in the chat? And I'll add it to a follow-up email with the recording. So I know Pivotal, if you want to send me yours, Elena, if you have one, we can all kind of be cross-promoting and supporting each other and getting young people to these appointments. And then, you know, I think I've dropped it in the chat a few times, but again, on our One CalEITC guide page, everything is downloadable, all of these resources. So if you just favorite or like that page, I'll put it in one more time. It has the guide, the checklist, the social media toolkit, everything you need. So I'll just drop it in one more time. Just favorite it in your bookmarks or toolbar. I'm trying to think what else, Carla, if people could do one thing today to just prepare to, I know we all do Zooms all day long now, so whatever helps you get set up for success, take a moment to do that for sure.
I think the biggest thing right now is just really, you know, with all of our youth, since we're in this virtual world right now, you know, all of our, you know, social workers and, you know, transitional housing case managers, I know they've been probably FaceTiming and doing a lot of virtual meetings with their young people, is just sending them the TAY checklist from JBAY that we shared earlier. Just send that out, say, hey, you know, let's start getting ready. Appointments are coming in February. Just start, you know, sending out those checklists to our young people. So I think that would be, you know, what we can do now, you know, to start getting the word out.
I think one more thing I will say, you know, maybe some of your colleagues or your partners in other organizations who also work with TAY, maybe they couldn't make this, but Carla and I are going to do this presentation statewide, both to share the same materials because, you know, some of our county youth are out of county or in other places. And also this is good work that youth across California need. So we're going to have a statewide webinar on February 9th. And so if there's people who couldn't make this or want to learn more, I'm going to just drop the link to register there. And, you know, that will be promoted. For those of you who did this training, it's a lot of the same content. So you don't have to do that again. But Carla and I are going to be talking about everything Santa Clara County is doing and just sort of singing your praises. So it's on February 9th. Any other questions that we can answer for you all? I think we have about 2 more minutes before we want to wrap up, but I'm seeing the hub Facebook information was dropped in the chat. I think Ashley, I can get Pivotal's information from you for the social media. I'll get that from you and send it out. I'm wondering if there's any other questions.
Hey, this is John. From a training perspective, where do I see the training signups?
I'll show that since we have some of our trainers and some people who are interested in the training. Give me 1 second to just pull up the email that I got from Geisha Graves of United Way Bay Area. So just give me 1 second to pull that up. Which email did that go to? I think it went to my work email. Hang on 1 second. I was checking, I signed up as a volunteer through my personal email, but I think, you know, Geisha knows me through this now too. So let me just pull it up. It's going to take me a second. All right, I've got this kind of, there's something called a new volunteer manual. I don't know if it'll actually let me post all of this in the chat, but I'll try. All right. So John, I put it in the chat, but I will also kind of share my screen here. 1 second. Okay. Trying to just make sure I'm not showing anything that can be. Here we go. So can everyone see? Did I share the right screen? Can you see this draft email thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, you know, it says, hello volunteers, and then there's this new volunteer manual. If you click on that manual, it walks you through where to take the standards of conduct quiz that takes about 10 minutes to kind of log in and take the test. And it shows you kind of what you need to do for the IRS to become certified. The new volunteer training schedule and sign up is this link, and I'll forward this to you, John. I'll forward this to all of our VITA volunteers as a reminder. But if you click on these blue links, it'll take you to the training schedule and sign up page, and it'll talk you through the volunteer resource guide. This new volunteer manual, I'll pull it up. And let's see, are you able to see the manual? Or are you still looking at my email? Okay, hang on 1 second. I'm going to share again, screen 2. Getting really good at this, Carla. I'm sorry. So when you click on the new volunteer manual, it looks like this. Everyone can see that?
Mm-hmm.
So it
Yes.
walks you through how to attend an online orientation, which isn't mandatory, but it's recommended. How to sign up for a tax site. You all don't have to because you're with the hub. You're with us. We're not letting anyone else borrow you this year. We need everyone. Train and certify, and that talks you how to do that, and then how to volunteer. We'll schedule a time that works for you with the hub. So when you scroll down, it kind of is like, yay, this is a very good thing. And then it has clickable links about, okay, attend an online training, train and certify. And then it says online training, sign up here. I'll put that link into the chat, just if that makes it easier. But I'll forward this again to all of our volunteers, but you go here to new volunteer training. And I'll send you the registration link in the chat right now. So it's kind of like you kind of have to read through the manual and click on things a little bit, or you can call me and I'll walk you through it because I've had to do this myself now and I'm more familiar. So it's basically all in that. And John, I believe I might have emailed it to you the day or a day after you signed up to be a volunteer.
It does look familiar, and you answered my question. Perfect, thanks.
Awesome.
Great.
I think everyone had that question. I myself had that question.
Yeah. All right. Any other question does anyone have for us today? Nope. I think we're good, Anna. I think, yes. So yeah, so everyone just, yes, start sending out the forces with us. Start sending out, you know, the resources, you know, the outreach materials, start sending that out to your young people. And like I said earlier, we'll be finalizing the schedule for our volunteers, and then we'll start posting on the Hub social media, sending out all staff emails to social workers, and I'll send out the information to all of our transitional housing programs and, you know, to CASA, so we can just get out the information on how you can help your young person schedule an appointment. So yeah, so we're excited, and you know, this is the first time we're doing this. We're going to do virtual appointments, so it might be a little bumpy start, but we're hoping that, you know, after a few weeks it'll get smoother. But yeah, so just be patient with us as we, you know, embark in this new territory. But yeah, so we're all excited, and yeah, so just thank you again for joining us. And yeah.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And again, I sent out my cell phone and my email. Feel free to contact me throughout the tax season or as questions arise, so that we get this right for our young people. And just as you're starting to talk to people, just so you know, the tax deadline for forms is the end of January. So if you talk to them today and they're like, I didn't get my W-2 yet, that's okay. But if it's February like 9th and they didn't get their W-2, they got to call their employer. So just so that you know, tax documents are going to start rolling out and should be in people's hands or electronically by the end of the month. So we got some time to get people ready. And that's my final word, I promise. All right, everyone. Happy Friday, TGIF. Thank you for helping our youth. You're the best. You're my heroes. I love our volunteers already. We haven't even met yet, some of us, but you know, the love is real. And everyone have a really good weekend.
Thank you.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.
Thank
you guys.
you.
Really excited.
Bye.